So welcome to the show, Dr. Rock.
Yeah, thank you, Shiva Kaila Shambho, thank you.
Thank you. You went on, what is his name? Matan Evan? Matan, that one guy, you went on his podcast, I think?
Yeah,
I'm just thinking of that right now. I don't know why, but that came to my mind. Um, yeah, you've done a lot of podcasts with a lot of big people. You did it with Matan, you did it with Kai Sanat. You did a podcast with him?
no, that was just kind of an interview, just kind of a meeting, kind of a recorded meeting between me and Kai Cenat. But
Yeah.
now, I'm not a monk anymore, so you lose the status. Nobody cares about some spiritual hippie character. Nobody cares
Yeah.
about that. And I was thinking a lot about that. Well, I've gotten the training for a monk for 7 years and a lot of transmissions and a lot of attainments, whatever, from gurus. But if I go down to the local Kundalini sex workshop, they're not going to give me any handouts. They don't care what my experience is. So, what do you do? Maybe they would. Maybe some Kundalini sex workshop would care about my experience, but generally, I think that's not the case.
So what's it like to transition from lay life to monk life and then monk life to lay life again?
I'm not a big fan of the Western energetic sphere. I'm not a big fan of Western paradigms and structures. But I'm Western, so maybe there's a lot of my own structures I'm not a fan of. So becoming a monk, it gave me some allowance to change my identity and to change the conditions that I was living in and experiencing in, to not be just, not just a tourist in the Asian country or in the spiritual community of Buddhism, but to be kind of a stakeholder in that. And in dropping it and then no longer being in that position, there's a lot of loss, a lot of protection, a lot of support, a lot of community, a lot of resources that, have been lost because I'm not a monk anymore. A lot of protection as well.
Why did you choose to leave?
My experience of myself at that time was so overloaded with empathy that I couldn't separate myself from the environment. I couldn't separate my body and mind from the bodies and minds of the environment. And there was a deep anger and frustration arising in me, a kind of wrath that was coming up. And, as that slowed down, as I got tapered off of that constant DMT drip, whatever it was, it just wouldn't stop. That's when I said, I don't want to be a symbol for anything anymore. I don't want to be a symbol for Buddhism or monasticism. I don't want any target on my back at all. But ultimately, it was probably, I wouldn't call it a decision, but, you would have to call it a decision probably, or most people would, or I could. But it's just something that's happened, and it was probably would have been better if I would have stayed a monk and kept experiencing life that way. Because I had a lot of students and a lot of fame and a lot of good resources, to be a spiritual teacher and a very important person in the Buddhist world. It takes time to build up. You got to put in a lot of years to get, to raise your seniority as a monk. But I was definitely going in that direction. And, now I'm not really going in any direction, which sometimes can be a little bit disappointing. That sense of not developing quickly or fastly or deeply.
That's something I've kind of like pondered, that's been on my mind a lot, and something I've also kind of struggled with is like wanting some identity to connect myself with, wanting some community to connect myself with, but also wanting to be an individual and wanting to have my, have some wanting to believe that there's something special about me or something like sovereign that I want to keep to myself. So that kind of dichotomy, I personally struggle with, and I'm not sure how much you relate to specifically that, but.
No, I'm very, you need community to become individuated. It's very important. And I'm not just talking about your mama and your papa and the people at McDonald's, or the Cracker Barrel, but you need, these moment by moment, sensitive, vulnerable relationships with people who are fully attuned to either a shared vision or the present, and that, I'm still young, so I there's a lot of things I don't have confidence about, even though that I believe, right? But a community without elders is a broken community. And if anything, that's the fundamental way that you begin to deconstruct and destroy a community and a tradition, and the vitality in that is by removing elders from it. So this is like the white people, the colonizers, the best stealers. I don't know what that idea is, that we're the best stealers, so stealing is somehow good, but you're going to get some pushback, I think, and that's what's happening to, I think, the modern West, is a lot of pushback for all of that stealing and all of that colonizing and genociding and all of those structures to dismantle community and to dismantle the role of elders in community. And now, I mean, some spiritual folks, you try to talk with them about elders, and the only person they can think of is who does their colonics, and the fucking freak who had sex with them on DMT in fucking Mexico for $1,000 or whatever. That's the only elder that they can imagine, and it's a really big problem with that. And that's something that I like and I respect about Shiva, as unable he is to defeat me in an arm wrestling match, and we can put that to the test, but we don't need to. He's not a fighter, he's a lover, and he knows that. But I really respect how much he emphasizes Sadhguru, and he emphasizes people to, take refuge and to look to an elder, to a master, not just to himself. And I think more spiritual teachers, which is kind of a broken term, should need to do that kind of thing. They need to reference more elders and more great teachers.
What was the hardest, most challenging aspect of being a monk, living a monk's life?
Well, it's the celibacy and its inner conflict, because actually when you're a monk, sexuality is wrong. Sexuality is prohibited, it's restrictive. So facing the lust, the sexual desire, the thoughts in my mind with this role of being a monk can be very difficult, very problematic. And then coming back into the society where sexuality, there's nothing wrong with sexuality, but actually it's been internalized that sexuality is actually quite dangerous, and it is. Lust is very dangerous, and lust and fear kind of go hand in hand together. probably why rape is so popular, because of the connection between lust and fear, or lust and terror.
Yeah.
Do you feel like some of that wrath could have come even from all of that celibacy? Like I know personally in my life when I've gone like been so celibate for almost a year or so, you know, that like there's an energy that wants to come out.
No, this was like my brain releasing DMT. This was like being in a communal psychic field of interbeing, where my identity and my ego, which is not fully purified, Sadhguru talks a lot about this. If you awaken the Kundalini, or you do the certain practices and you get very, very high, you get very, very strong, right? You get very potent, and you can go crazy from that and never come back. You've heard Sadhguru talk about that, I'm sure. And that's definitely what I was going through. I pushed myself way too deep, way too high, with not enough preliminary practice or purification. And it just created this kind of wrathful, very powerful ego. You know, how powerful wisdom is, more powerful than power, you know, so it doesn't matter, right? But the experience of it was a lot of power and a lot of suffering, and a lot of not separation between my body and mind and the bodies and minds of other people. And that was in the midst of the worst possible environment and best possible environment, I guess you could say, which was this Mahakumbhala, only once every 100 years festival. So take your Coachella and go fuck yourself, because you're not going to make it to the Mahakumbhala. So it was not something that I could put into any kind of, like I was going through something. It was something that was radiating out of me and going through me. Yeah. And I think it, in many ways, it kind of destructuralized my ego. Destabilized, destructurized my ego, and led to led to some changes, different ways of expressing that maybe some people have seen on my YouTube channel or not, but yeah.
Yeah, I suppose like for me, like when I was going through this year or so where I was living with these four Russian people, it's a very interesting year for me because they were running from the war and they were going through a lot of negativity, a lot of suffering. And so that was inspiring me to do a lot of practice, very consistent, 3-4 times a day. And I was very, very strong with my semen intention, and I was luckily with all the meditation, even if you're doing that celibacy, you're going to be transmuting that energy. So like, you're not going to be feeling that. But if you stop doing the practices, stop meditating, then like stuff can pop. So that's my personal experience.
No, at this time I wasn't drinking water. I was only eating discarded food. I was not bathing. It was the lowest and highest point of my life, you know, and the highness wasn't nice, you know, it was kind of rap. Are you Jewish?
No.
So is that a satanic symbol?
No, this is so I can explain this real quick. This is a symbol of Ananda Marga. So it's my meditation, it's my spiritual path. Basically, there's since it's not a German swastika, this is a Hindu swastika. It represents liberation, enlightenment, and the sun represents victory, and the Jewish star, it's not really a Jewish star, this is a symbol, this is a pratik, this is a spiritual symbol.
But that's also what a Jewish star looks like.
It's also what it looks like.
Okay, just so everybody can be clear about this guy is wearing a Jewish star, seemingly with a swastika inside of it.
Yeah. Maybe I should explain what the star means really quickly. So the downward triangle represents meditation, going inward, and the upward triangle represents service, going outward into the world. So this is a spiritual symbol that Sri Anandamurti, who came after World War II, he invented this. He created this symbol. He actually created a whole lot of spiritual practices, and yeah, this is a certain organization that exists today, and it's not racist. It's actually quite the opposite.
It's sick, it's sweet. I'm wondering if we can, because you're asking me why I was laughing about the situation that's kind of happened with the big invite and the big ideas for the community in Bali, which is what brought me here. I'm not going to lie, I didn't just go here to visit Bali. I came here because of that whole momentum, that whole situation. And I'd like to hear more about it. It seems like there's so much there that it's almost difficult to talk, because then you're getting pulled into this aspect and that aspect. But for me, when it comes to spiritual practice and community in life, like this opportunity to see each other and to bear witness to one another and have this concern that's like open-ended for community, for building, for developing, for this real communication to take place, based on mindfulness and detachment, or Sadhguru, I'm sure, has some words that he could use for that, but it's just you're not going to get far without that. Because there's like this mutual inspiration of being in community that is so vital and so alive, that just trying to practice by oneself you never get. And so even the Buddha, even before he got enlightened by himself, it was all about community, his training and his practicing. And so I've lived, that's what I tell people, this is bragging or whatever, but I've lived in a lot of spiritual community, and I've been in a lot of these environments, and there's just a real seemingly lack of the capacity for this communication to take place in a spiritual context with Westerners. It seems like there's a spirit. I would say, you can get into that. I'm not ready to talk about that kind of thing, but it's really interesting. But there's a spirit, or there's a quality where the moment that we don't have a chance to colonize one another or the environment, then we have to stop engaging and interacting, and we have to go back to the pre-recorded broadcast, or go back to the schedule that's already been set up. Because there's something, you've been sharing with me a little bit about the money and, spirituality and money, you can't separate those in a certain sense, unless maybe you're Sadhguru, or you're living in, Coimbatore. Shiva was banned from Coimbatore because he's bringing weapons, he's bringing knives. But no, it was a circumstance. But there's a power, not in how much money people have, but just in your whiteness, for example, or your education, or your health of your body, and the health of your mind, and the capacity to communicate, that's just fucking uncomprehendable. Not just to communicate between me and you, some spiritual dirtbags or whatever, but to communicate with this person and that person who's connecting with this from that angle, with the community, who's trying to get help. So if you're making spirituality a for-profit model, it's going to be very difficult to create space, or community a for-profit model. It's going to be very difficult to make space for people who actually need help. And if that's not what it's about, then you needing help doesn't fucking matter to me. And then community is out the window.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how much I want to speak on this, because I'm kind of the main victim, you could say, in the scenario. So this is, I mean, it's an interesting situation. Also, Shiva has been not really kicked out at all, but he's getting some flack sometimes. But it's mostly me who is kind of under fire by Leo and by Reese and I
You don't wanna
hear
name
what.
names.
Yeah,
No, of course we'll mention names, I think, because
It's
everybody
good.
knows already.
it's very subtle, you know, but it's a sensitive. I think the sensitivity is so high right now. But
Well, I'm the victim. I mean, I don't think I'm really saying that there's anything too terrible about them.
they were mean to
Yeah.
you. Well, you people have been mean to you.
Yeah, I don't know if I would necessarily want to use the word mean because I didn't ever feel insulted, even though maybe like, but the situation here in Bali was that for some reason my vibe is not appreciated. They don't like. I don't really understand exactly what the issue is. At the beginning, it was just that I just wasn't liked from the very start. So that's just. the
I have a
situation
similar
there.
situation because the
Yeah.
moment sometimes you see somebody or you hear somebody and you say, you know, I don't really like that. So like the moment I met Shiva, and I think vice versa, we kind of like each other and we support each other from time to time, you know, in our communion. You know, we're not getting sewed together or whatever. But I liked you. You know, I like you. Seem like good skin, good looking guy. I wish I had a beard like that. You know,
Yeah.
but that's just preferences, right? It's just some people have a preference, and
Right. Right.
but I can imagine how that would feel. I remember how that felt to me, and I've had a lot of experience. You know, I'm a real tough fucking cookie, right? So to say, not when fucking Australia's border patrol was fucking with me. I'm not a tough cookie then, but when I felt that energy of like, we don't, you know, somebody said, we don't like that, we're not, you know, that hurt me. I felt, you know, I just bits and pieces because I like Shiva, because, you know, I consider Shiva a friend. But I bet for you, that was probably pretty torturous. Being
Well,
in the
yeah.
situation.
Well, I think it's like the thing is sometimes also you're just gonna be on the receiving end of somebody's bad day or somebody's bad, you know, times, or somebody's just is not happy within themselves. Oftentimes, I mean, like it depends how deep you want to analyze this spiritually, or as far as relationships, or as far as what they're building, or what the community here in Bali is building, and what is everything that's going on. For me, I think if it was anybody else, maybe they would have been more affected by it. For me, it wasn't so terrible,
But you felt it.
but it does negatively impact because I do want us to all be together, growing, making some community, making, you know, stuff happen. Yeah.
I think
So
this.
it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate.
It's very unfortunate. This kind of thing, this is the ticket.
Yeah.
Because people watching, you know, whether it's live or it's not live or whatever, people watch it and doing something like this live and high quality, that's also a big fucking ticket. But what I'm saying is when people hear people talking like this, they get activated. Because it's not just a reality show, it's a live reality show, and you get people who are kind of open and, you know, and are there and you can interact with them. And that's the kind of dynamics that works well in Hollywood, but it's not going to work well if you're trying to do it from making money from a place of poverty. And real poverty is a hunger for more money when you've already got enough to take care of yourself. That's real poverty. What about next week? What about next month? What about next year? There's no next year, bud. Right? And you know, right? So, and then when you're impoverished like that, then everybody's kind of scraping together and no real communication can take place. But that's what I feel. That's what I think. This kind of thing, just like when the Discord was popping and people are coming in and interactions are coming in, but when it doesn't have some potency or some relationship to the elders, some transmissions or whatever it is, some connection to depth, then it just fizzles out before it can become anything. And especially when it's self-fixated. So if like this is just about me liking you, liking her, liking him, etc. Nobody's paying us to like or not like each other. We're gonna go fucking live somewhere else, right? But when it's about actually building community and helping others and providing actually for the basic needs of others, that's a different situation. It's really a different situation.
Yeah.
And people talk about how I need to make money, I don't have a lot of money. Man, if your capacity to speak and communicate and to experience and be a filter for people is immense. To convey what's going on, because you might have somebody like Shiva here or somebody like Dr. Rob here, and they're on this spectrum or that spectrum or whatever. So they're maybe connected, they're curious, they feel like something's there, but it's the filter isn't there. And they don't have those filtering skills to transform that, right? And then someone else is talking about their experience, and it all just boom, boom, boom. And then you don't just get students, you get community members, or you don't just get followers, you get community members. But the thing is that a lot of people don't even know that community can exist in a big way based on generosity.
I mean, community doesn't really even exist beyond perhaps some workplace environments in the West. It's like gone, basically.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's like in Asia and all these countries, how it works, but
Well, there's monasteries with hundreds and hundreds of people who are following a master or a meditation master, and just my teacher just went from Myanmar to India, to Buddha Gaya, because they got a big Buddhist chanting program going on there. Like 50 monks and nuns and people and everything just follow along with that. So I'm always talking about not how can we leverage what we want as separate individuals, but how can we leverage the needs of others. That's not about what we want. Concerned with the masters, with the elders, whoever we can get our hands on. But it's the communication is broken down so much that we can't even really know what we're focused on or concerned with. Because we're just looking for somebody who's dangling a bell or dangling a carrot in front of our heads. And then when we say, wait a minute, I'm not looking for that carrot. I may very well be looking for a carrot, but that's not the carrot I'm looking for. Then they say, well, fuck this. What the hell's going on? I can't control this person. I can't make sure what this person is doing, what this person's mentality is.
right. I think there's also is like kind of a difference of mentality, because they're focusing on this business, they're focusing on, it's kind of not what I want. What I'm looking for is to build like kind of what you're referring to, a community, and it's like in person and online and everything. It's even in my YouTube description. That's what I'm trying to focus towards, to uplift the collective. I think that they want that to some degree, but they're also very focused on how much this group in Bali, how much value you bring into the group, which is good. But I think because I don't have subscribers, I don't have value.
Fuck that. And what about a fucking child? What about a fucking single mother? What about a fucking black person? What about fucking Indonesian people? They don't have fuck to offer. Yeah. They're not putting in any money. They're not making any fucking vegan smoothies, right?
Yeah.
So this mentality is just total toxicity. And, money is just more about power. Or, money is just something to be used without attachment. But once you're attached to the money is using you, just a constant desire.
Yeah, they see it as a business. I see this firstly as friends. That's how I see it.
Well, friends also isn't going to work, because how good of friends do we want to be? Do we want to masturbate together? Do we want to have sex with each other? Do we want to share sexual partners with one another? Do we want to be nude together? Do we want to spit in each other's mouths? So all that kind of stuff is going to be going on subliminally or psychosocially, right? So
not in my mind.
Well, but it's very subtle, right? So
sure. Okay.
It's more like friendship is great when it's based on generosity and concerned with the path and concerned with the teachings. But when you don't have any of that on the table, it's just concerned with your ego.
Yeah.
That's where I cross the line, spitting in my mouth. Masturbating together is fine.
Hold on.
Spitting in my mouth, you've gone too far.
Would you I want him to be honest here. I want him to really think about this, right? Would you let Sadhguru himself spit in your mouth?
Yes.
Okay.
For enlightenment only. And no other reason. No sexual pleasures.
Yeah. But I think it takes a long time to start showing how fucking crazy the ego is and how dangerous it is and how dangerous the self notion is. And it's just not going to happen overnight. And you get your hopes up, but you should have never got your hopes up to begin with because it's hopeless. That's kind of the nature of the path, actually, is to experience like hopelessness. And then the boundlessness of that hopelessness. Because it's possible. I mean, it's really revolutionary. It's really revolutionary. But we like to have an advantage. We like to be in a position of control. We like to be talking about how you shouldn't be attached to money while we got the money in our pocket. We can buy whatever we want, right? So, but really, to be in community like that, concerned with these kinds of environments where there is need and there is resources on the table, and creating a meditation center, creating spiritual community, you get the money quick, especially when you can start to connect with the broader audience out there and give them access to something that's just not usually on the table, that they've never experienced before. But you can't overstate or understate the importance of the spiritual masters. It's just you have to humble people. Like you have to. I have to go over there. These guys are sensitive, but but you have to go over there and talk to these people and say, look, who have you trained? But you gotta be careful first, because is that the context that they're interested or involved with, and how willing are they to actually communicate about that support, that direction, that information? Like, hey, wait a minute, we're talking about a training here, just like if we were talking about fucking Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So what gyms did you train at? What masters did you train with? How long were you there? And that is not a point to say, oh, I've got this more experience. No, it's a conversation. It's a communication. It's a gift. Where did you train? Where did you visit? Where did you practice? When was your last fucking 10-day Vipassana retreat? Oh, it's last week for me. For me, I just pussied out of a fucking retreat in Australia and said, I'm getting out of there. Not to be sexist, but like a pussycat. I meowed my way out of Australia instead of going to this retreat.
So Dr. Rob, are you a doctor?
So I am the designated representative of the being known as Rob that cannot be talked about or conveyed here. It'd be totally inappropriate. It'd be very dangerous. So yeah, I'm the designated representative of the entity or being known as Rob.
So you're like the doctor for yourself, kind of like, or you're outside of yourself.
The designated representative, yeah. Yeah, because I could, but it wouldn't be appropriate to do that mostly. Yeah.
And you said you chickened out of the 10-day Vipassana retreat. You left early.
Yeah, I just wanted to leave Australia. No, I didn't go. It wasn't a 10-day. It was a different, like a metta samadhi retreat with some monk that I just didn't end up going to, because I didn't want to stay in Australia for that much longer. Like the moment that I got through visa, immigration to leave, it was like 1,000-pound weight lifted off my chest the moment I got out of there.
Yeah. Australia to me was nice. I enjoyed.
Liar!
Oh.
How dare you say that? How dare you say that, man? I just said Australia. No, Australia was nice for me too. Sorry. Go ahead. I really enjoyed Australia, just not the border guards.
It's a very venomous place. Very venomous land.
I thought you said you liked Venom, Shiva. You like.
That's why I like it, yeah.
If you, and I don't know if Shiva talks about this, but there's one way that you can actually get around the semen retention thing. If you're on semen retention and it happens and you can't control yourself, you have to consume your seed. And if you consume your seed, that is considered not a breach of semen retention because you're still retaining that seed. I know that's tantric. I know you're not supposed to say that. She was not supposed to say that, but
Yeah, don't do that.
I'll say it. I'll say it, eh?
Well, I can title this video so many great things now. This is
Yeah, don't consume your seed, don't drink it. It's not worthwhile or valuable.
You have to have certain transmissions before.
Yeah.
Is that true or not true? Have you ever heard about that?
I've thought about that, but I don't think that's sensible.
Not a good idea, then.
Yeah.
Huh?
You'll probably puke it out and puke out more food than you double loss. But yeah, semen retention, being a monk, being celibate. Have you broken the celibacy rules? Have you masturbated while you were a monk?
6 years. Long time.
After that, I was in Burma, and there was a huge monastery, Paul Oxidal's monastery,
Yeah.
and there's like 1,000 monks or so, and there was a special place for bad monks. The
That's
monks-
right. That's right.
Yeah, bad monks that have breached integrity or masturbated, did something bad, and they lived separately. And there was quite a few of them, like 20, 30, 40, something. And I was like, oh, interesting. I wonder how many of them masturbated. And then I thought to myself, yeah, for sure I would masturbate also because I was at that time so lust consumed that I couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So, from you going through this experience here in Bali so far, which isn't necessarily over or ended, you know, you can go bring me around there, it's probably gonna be over or ended, but and that might have been part of it as well, just the choo-choo train and Dr. Rob, you know, coming to support Shiva, you know, and that kind of mentality, which seems that is maybe, it's business. You don't bring spirituality into business. You can bring business into spirituality, but anyways, what I'm trying to say is from this experience, it's a very rich experience is how I feel from the two of you, right? And community experience. What do you think the next steps could be in community or in, you know, trying something like this, or what have you seen from it so far? What have you learned from it so far?
One thing I learned for sure, definitely, is that if you create a community, a large space where people can gather, then pretty much everybody is welcome. Because the food of spirituality is too precious to be wasted by, oh no, you have bad energy, oh no, you're this, oh no, this guy's vibe, oh you can't. Unless you transgress some of the rules, like you kill somebody or you steal, or you do something very weird or shady, you're actually actions. Everybody's welcome, because everybody needs to eat the food of spirituality. Everybody needs to eat food. Who am I to deny you sustenance? Who am I to deny you spiritual sustenance? That's absurd, and that's wrong. So, yes, everybody's welcome unless you're pathologically ill, then there's a different space for you, or you're a criminal. That's also quite bad. Otherwise, come on in, come on down. So that's what I have to say about that. That's what I think.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I do understand their perspective. I don't agree that whatever opinion they have about my vibe, I don't know. I personally obviously wouldn't agree with that. But that is an interesting, like, you know, idea that if you want to build a tighter knit community, maybe you would have maybe some people you wouldn't want in that. But I mean, they're building a business, so that's a different situation than what is going on here. But I know that for sure, if I build a community, like I'm thinking, like as I build or whatever, like I'm kind of contemplating that for myself now. Like, who would be not allowed? Like, if there's some weird person, would I allow them? Would I say no? You can't be a part of this. I don't think so. But I wonder, like, I just wonder where that border would be. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you cause problems, like I came to Isha Yoga Center and I had some fancy equipment in my backpack, and that was unintentional. But hey, I had it, and they had a right to refuse me, and they did. So that's reasonable, that's acceptable. But yeah, over somebody's vibe, over somebody's energy, I mean, you're really going deep. Unless you can tell for sure that the person is going to cause problems, if they're going to cause problems, then you also have a right to refuse them. But your personal preferences, you have some work to do. You have some meditating to do. Some meditation. classes. Because it's not about your personal preferences. Your likes and dislikes have to be destroyed. It's an illusion. We're all the same here. Everybody's the same. Everything is the same. And we're just here going along in life, waiting to die and nothing else. Well, that's it, folks. That's our show. Thank you so much for joining us. The links to both of these guys' YouTube channels will be down below. Also, they'll be tagged. They'll be collaborators, so you'll see who is collaborating with this video. I suggest you subscribe to both of them. And I'll see you in the next show. Oh, yeah.
And as I always say in my videos, Ad Astra.
The stars.
Yeah, this guy's gonna go to Pluto, right?
Yep.